What's good? It's your boy CJ Goodfella back with the boxing clinic. And yesterday I talked about in Eddie Hearn's video talking about he only wanted Joshua to fight 2 times a year now. And I talked about how shady these sanctioning bodies was. And now the WBO comes out and says that if Canelo wants to be the number one contender or mandatory to the Khurtsidze and Billy Joe Saunders match, if he wants it, it's there for him. What kind of bullshit is that? I understand that he was the 154-pound champion, and I have seen in the past where they can make one division champion and make him the mandatory for the next division champion. One case of this was Demetrius Andrade. Before the Matt Korobov and the Andy Lee fight happened, Demetrius Andrade was actually going to move up and fight Matt Korobov at 160. But Dum Dum said the money wasn't good enough, so he stayed there in his career at 154. Was is what it is now. He's a has-been at this point. So I've seen it before, but like I said, Canelo has a beef with the WBC, so now he runs to the WBO and tries to be the face of their belt. And them being second rate to the WBC, of course they're gonna take the biggest star in Mexico, right up under the WBC's belt, which is, Mexico's green belt. So, it just shows you how shady it is, and people that's holding these belts in high regard, they're total shams and total bullshit. Boxing should have one commission, and get one belt that matters, one champion. Because all these sanctioning bodies do is want a percentage of the purse for guys holding a belt. They got a belt for a belt of super, a regular champion. At the end of the day, it's total horseshit. And people who talking about, well, he's the guy. Like I said, the belts are only for negotiation tactics. That's it now. These guys aren't real champions no more. And it's really nothing but a negotiation tactic to get the fights that you really want. You get the high caliber fights. And but for them to say, if Canelo, you want to be number one contender, that shit don't work like that. You see that shit in the NBA? Hey, LeBron, if you want to be in the NBA championship this year, it's here for you. You ain't gotta play through the playoffs. You just go to the motherfucking finals. And if you win, you get the belt, you get the championship, you get the cup, the Larry O'Brien trophy. See that shit? Hey, New England. Hey, I know y'all went to the Super Bowl. Y'all got like 5 championships. But if you don't want to go through the playoffs this year, and after the regular season, you can go straight to the Super Bowl. You don't see that shit in no other sports. You know what I mean? This is one of the most shadiest sports in the world. It's very grimy, dirty business. And where like Derek Chisero said, he had an interview, the guys with the suits and ties, they go home the richer entity. Period. The boxer go home is usually the broker guy. In most scenarios, you have special cases like Floyd Mayweather. But that's usually how it is. But for them to try to, artificially put Canelo Alvarez as a champion, I'm not feeling it. And I'm just sick and tired of the bullshit in boxing. And then the fans just eat it up. Oh, he's a 5-weight division, 2-weight division champion, 6-time world champ. At this point, man, I don't want to hear about none of that shit. That shit don't matter no more. It's about who you with, your popularity now. It's not about what you done did. It's not about your body of work anymore. And like I said, all these guys that you think are good, and when they step into the ring and get exposed, and then when the promoter, or the manager or the advisor, whoever the fuck these guys is, tilt the scorecards in their favor, just because he's your guy, he got past it. Yeah, he still won. It wasn't no robbery. But when it's a close fight, like other fights, you know what I mean? And people want to scream, oh, he robbed Kovalev, or, this guy robbed this guy, or Deontay Wilder did. Like I said, these fans in boxing are very, 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 very biased. And I know people separate the fans into casuals and hardcores, but at the end of the day, the casual fan is probably better than the hardcore fan. For the simple fact, it's more casual fans, and everything is critiqued and really pushed to favor the casual fan because that's where all the money comes from. And they're probably more pure than the sport than a hardcore fan, because a hardcore fan usually has some type of attachment to their favorite fighter. A casual fan just hear and see what they say, oh, that guy can fight. And at the end of the day, they're going to be more clear. They're like, oh, I think that guy won. Or I think, Pacquiao really did beat Tim Bradley. or something like that. With a hardcore fan, no, the box rec says this, the box rec says that. And at the end of the day, box rec doesn't mean anything. It's an opinionated stat where a guy holding a clicker saying, determining what landed and what didn't land. And for people to use that as an excuse, that's a whole nother video I did on judging how to judge a fight about a couple weeks ago. But, you know what I mean? It's just the simple fact of it, man. These guys are just artificially making these guys stars. Now, they don't have to go through the ranks like Marvin Hagler, fighting the toughest guys on the East Coast, fighting the toughest Philly had to offer. And that's what made him the fighter that he is. But it's going to come a point in time when you're going to run into a guy who's tough, who's Billy Badass, who's the real deal Holyfield, and it's going to test your fortitude. You know what I mean? It's always test. And it's usually the fights that you don't know that think it's going to be test. You know what I mean? And, you know, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. made a good point. He said, yeah, all the fights that Canelo fought, yeah, he fought Mayweather, smaller guys, and hand-picked guys. But at the end of the day, he didn't fight the truly, truly best at junior middleweight. You know what I mean? So when people go back and say, oh, Canelo versus this new up-and-down fighter at junior middleweight down the line, Canelo never really tested himself at junior middleweight, because when he did, you know, most people had him losing to Lara and very scraping by Lara. You know what I mean? He didn't fight Andrade. You know, he didn't try to fight the Charlo twins. You know, so at the end of the day, it's going to be the same thing at middleweight for Canelo. He's going to try to get his pick of the litter, ready for Triple G to get old, and try to reign a division that's truly weak. It's starting to get stronger, but will he ever get Jamal Charlo his shot? I think not. No time soon. You know, Andrade, Charlo called him all type of bitches and shit, and he's above that because his popularity. It's not because he's, you know, the most talented fighter in the world. You know, top 10, Canelo's probably not top 10 as talent from top to bottom in the world. He's probably not even in the top 10 as far as talent. You know what I mean? It's a lot more talented fighters. But at the end of the day, he has to look the promoter, and he's Mexican. And that's why he gets the grunt of it. Don't get me wrong, he's a talented individual. I like Canelo. But at the end of the day, because he's Mexican and red hair, you know, he's popular and he gets away with it. And he has the power to do that. There's plenty more fighters that's just as talented and better than Canelo, but their careers hasn't been orchestrated and handpicked like Canelo. Like I said, people point to Mayweather, Marquez, Cotto, and all those other guys, but these are the guys who made their rounds. They fought in Atlantic City, they fought in New York, they fought here, they fought there. You know, they fought the tough guys. You know what I mean? They paid their dues to the sport. I think Marquez went over to Chris John's country, Indonesia or some shit, and lost. You know what I mean? Cotto, you know, he put the work in. Fighting when he had to fight, doing what he had to do. Shane Mosley put the work in. Pacquiao fighting all the Mexican warriors that he fought. He put the work in. And these guys don't want to put the work in. They don't want to sweat no more. They don't want to grind no more, like Mayweather said. They just want to jump from plan A to Z, and it doesn't work like that, because when you jump from A to Z, one day, motherfucking, when you get to Z, you know, you on your way to Z, it's going to be a motherfucker that's not playing no games with you and is going to test you. And when that test comes, you know, 9 times out of 10, a lot of these guys are going to pass or get robberies off of that. So, you know, it's earned. You know, just how they just handed Canelo that belt, I think that's just, you know, wrong. He's at the fight. You know, it's 10 other contenders in that belt. 15, really. That's in that belt ranking. And for him to jump over all 15 because the body of work, because he beat Lima Smith at 154, I think that's not right, but we gone.